Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to my newest mock draft installment. This will be a what I would do mock draft, so save your "this will never happen" comments for another video, because that is not the purpose of this mock. The purpose of this mock is to put myself in the GM chair of all 32 teams and make the pick and trades that make the most sense for each team in accordance to my own personal draft board. A couple other notes before we hop in here. Drop a like down below. When this video gets 1,000 likes, I will begin work on dropping rounds 2 and 3 of this mock draft. Also, if you enjoy my draft content, you want access to my full draft board with evaluations on over 600 players, exclusive film breakdowns, team-specific 7-round mock drafts, the full TFG Draft Insider package, check out my Patreon. It's patreon.com/ThatFranchiseGuy. You can get access to all those things. So without further ado, with the first overall pick, the Cincinnati Bengals will be selecting Joe Burrow. Lots of rumors swirling up that Miami would perhaps sell the farm to come up here and get Joe Burrow. Would definitely entertain that idea if I were the Bengals, but I actually think they're in a great spot to transition to a new potentially elite franchise quarterback type of guy in Joe Burrow. And I would actually be asking for more than just those 3 first-round picks from the Miami Dolphins to make this move. And as the GM of the Dolphins, I don't know if I'm quite comfortable doing that for Joe Burrow. So the pick here is Burrow to the Bengals. Then with the second pick, now I do think with the Quinton Dunbar trade to Seattle, Jeff Okudah has entered the picture here for the Redskins. Not with the second pick, but I do think that increases the likelihood that we do see a trade here from Miami up to the number 2 spot for Tua. Now, let's talk about Tua for a second. It's pretty well documented how I feel about him. I think he's a nice player. I do have a first-round grade on him. He's a really good point guard type, quick release, very accurate, great decision maker in the RPO game, which does give him a very high floor as a quarterback. Unfortunately, with those injury concerns, that floor is just cut out from underneath him and gives you some pretty crazy bust potential for a guy that I view as a really high floor, potentially lower ceiling type of player. Some of his weaknesses to me, mechanics are all wonky throwing deep. I think he mentally kind of breaks down in the red zone. I don't love his pocket presence. I don't think he uses his mobility to the best of his ability. And for God's sake, a lot of his tape is straight up something you can't even evaluate because his receivers do everything for him a lot of times. It's like a 7-on-7 drill. So there's a lot of adjustment period coming to the NFL where things aren't going to be so easy for him. So as this mock goes on, you will notice I'm simply not on board with Tua as this elite quarterback prospect that a lot of the draft community is. And for that reason, we won't be seeing a trade up to go and get Tua because I'm playing GM for every single team here, and I'm just not comfortable doing that for anybody. So the Redskins, it's really hard to find a trade partner if that's what they want to do, so we're just going to take Chase Young. They do have some players on the edge, but I don't think any of them are that cornerstone player. Kerrigan's getting up there. I'm not a huge Montez Sweat guy. He's fine, I guess. But Chase Young can be that number 1 guy there, an all-pro type of guy, somewhere between a Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett. I think that's kind of a good high-low comp for him, so plug him in there. And you can really start to get excited about that defensive line, that pass rush. And then with the third pick, the Detroit Lions. Now, I would love to trade down here, but it takes 2 to tango, and I couldn't find a dance partner. Really thinking about 2 players here, Jeff Okudah and Isaiah Simmons. To me, the pick is still going to be Isaiah Simmons here, what I did in my last what I would do mock draft. Simply just a better prospect than Jeff Okudah, a rare type of player. Okudah definitely would fit the mindset and team-building mentality of this team, kind of starting on the perimeter of the defense. But you do have some good bodies there at corner right now. And Isaiah Simmons is just a special player. I talked in my previous mock about how he's a bit of a weird scheme fit. I don't know if he's a middle linebacker here, probably not an outside linebacker in this scheme where those are more pass rushers in this scheme. Quite possibly going to be their strong safety here for Patricia. Now, look, Isaiah Simmons, even if he's a weird scheme fit for Patricia, he's probably the most dynamic, versatile, modern prototype defensive coverage players to ever come out. Patricia, if you can't find a way to use this guy effectively, you're already on the hot seat. I'm sorry. If you can't figure out how to use Isaiah Simmons correctly, hopefully our next coach will. I'm just not passing up on the talent of Isaiah Simmons here. And there is room for him to succeed on this defense in year one. Then we got the Giants with the 4th pick. Thought about a trade down. Didn't make a ton of sense. Jeff Okudah, the best player on the board most likely, but the Giants have really dumped a lot of resources into that corner position, so I don't think that makes a lot of sense. That right tackle position still a huge need, and I'm actually going to take Jedrick Wills here. Now, don't let this skew you off of me having Andrew Thomas as my number 1 tackle in this class, but the reality is they are very, very close. Jedrick Wills comfortable at right tackle, Andrew Thomas comfortable at left tackle. It is a real thing asking these guys to switch. I think the Giants would like this guy to come in and be a great impact on day one. If it's close, I'm going to take the guy that can actually, be more comfortable at right tackle. Solder is not like a long-term answer, but he's a capable, competent left tackle. So we're going to grab Jedrick Wills. And then the Miami Dolphins at number 5. Again, it's not going to be Tua. I'm not putting Tua, especially behind this offensive line. That is the worst in the NFL. I'm sorry. Adding Eric Flowers at guard is not going to fix this offensive line. We need some tackle help here, center, really the entire offensive line. I'm just not putting Tua back there. So I'm going to take Andrew Thomas, my number 1 tackle on the board, a franchise cornerstone left tackle for the next 10 years to protect whatever quarterback in the future you do figure out. Then with the 6th pick, the LA Chargers, I definitely have someone in my mind. But if I can find a trade down partner here, I'm going to do it. And one team that I think could move up, just giving up a 3rd round pick to come up here from 9 to 6, the Jacksonville Jaguars, to grab Jeff Okudah, number 1 corner in this class. Probably better in man than zone, but still a young guy who can absolutely develop in a zone-heavy scheme. He can press, play the run, does everything they look for in those corners in Jacksonville in that press cover 3 scheme. And I think they might actually value some of that versatility he can do running with guys across the field as well. So kind of a win-win trade there. And then number 7, the Carolina Panthers, with Okudah, Simmons, and Young now gone. It's tough here because the value at the positions they'd be looking to draft is very similar in the middle of this class. And it's also a team in a bit of a rebuild. So I'm definitely looking to trade down. And it's with a team that I've been consistently moving up here into the top 10, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. You patched corner there with Darius Slay, but because of the positional scarcity at wide receiver and kind of the lack of ability that this team's had to really pay up for another wide receiver, because they do have Alshon and Deshaun Jackson there who are making some money, and if they can stay healthy would be nice, but they are far from reliable, especially as you look 2-3 years down the road. Get Jerry Jeudy on a cheap 5-year contract on that rookie deal. Be your number 1 wide receiver, the best separator here. And you're giving up a future first to do it, which is unfortunate, but you're hoping that this is a team that can compete for a Super Bowl this season. You're hoping that 1st round pick is closer to a 2nd round. And then you're giving up a 4th rounder this year. This roster has a ton of talent. So in the grand scheme of things, when you have a win now window, this is not that much to give up to go and get Jerry Jeudy. But from Carolina's perspective, that future first you get here could be invaluable as far as moving up to go and get a quarterback if they need to do that next year. So I think this move makes a ton of sense. Then we got the Cardinals at number 8. This one is pretty easy. Tristan Wirfs, uber athletic tackle. A lot of quick pass sets here in Arizona, can get him on the move, horizontal screens and all that stuff. He's a perfect fit here in this Cliff Kingsbury offense, so plug him right in there at right tackle. Then the Chargers, where we move down, we're going to grab my personal number 2 quarterback on my own board, and that is Jordan Love. Trying to aim for that upswing at quarterback, the elite upside. So many things went wrong for Love at Utah State. He has all the physical tools, and yet still really impressed me. Yeah, he threw too many interceptions. A lot of it was pressing. You can kind of get him to reset here with the Chargers in a just dominant surrounding situation. You move down, you got an extra 3rd round pick from Jacksonville, a lot of assets to continue to build up this offensive line. He doesn't have to start right away, can play behind Tyrod Taylor. He's got a great defense to support him, great receivers. I can't think of a much better fit here than the Chargers for Jordan Love. Then the Browns at number 10. It's unfortunate those top 3 tackles were gone. You really hope that that's not the case in real life. I've talked about Mekhi Becton in the past. I got a lot of questions about him. I think he's one of the more overrated players in this class, at least as a day 1 starter. The upside is unquestionable. But guys, there's no guarantee that he can come in and be an immediate upgrade at left tackle to Chris Hubbard. There really isn't. So is that the right pick with the 10th spot? I don't know. Is there a trade partner here? Yeah, the Minnesota Vikings. Have the draft capital to do it. They give up the 22nd pick, their 3rd round this year, and a future 2nd, kind of comparable to that Steelers-Broncos trade from last year. The best players on the board are wide receiver and corner for Cleveland. Just simply not really worth the value. So they're going to move down, target a similar value at 22 with the positions they need. And the Vikings going to grab CeeDe Lamb, who's been my comparison is Stefon Diggs since January, has the leaping ability to attack the football, the elite run after the catch ability, does need to develop as a route runner if he's going to become Stefon Diggs, but I think he can do that. So that's the move at 10. Then with the 11th pick, the New York Jets, kind of similar thinking here. I definitely would love to get a tackle if I could to protect Sam Darnold. But if I can find a trade down partner and still get some value at tackle later, I'm going to look to do that. And with the Jets, we don't have to move down quite as far. It's going to be the Denver Broncos now with CeeDe Lamb off the board. Getting a little scared here, moving up 4 spots for Henry Ruggs. Got to credit Swami. In our last mock draft, brought up the fact that put him in that thin air in Denver, and defensive backs are going to be just grasping for the oxygen mask. Perfect fit with Drew Lock, who loves to go deep. Really going to open up this offense. And a great move for the Jets, too, who can still get one of these tackles most likely at the 15th pick. Then the Raiders with the 12th pick. This one was pretty easy. Going to grab CJ Henderson with those top 3 receivers off the board. That is their biggest need by far. I do like Justin Jefferson, but the Raiders, their offensive passing targets, Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, even Foster Moreau, a lot of those guys operate in that short to intermediate middle of the field already, so Justin Jefferson might be a little overkill there. CJ Henderson can plug right in there next to Trayvon Mullen, a versatile guy, a little more comfortable in zone, but can press really well, an elite athlete at the position, can continue to develop as a man corner as well, has all the athleticism to do that. So I love this pick for the Raiders at 12. Then the Niners at pick 13. I'm going to stick to my guns here. It's not just what I think will happen, but is also what I would do if I were the Niners. And that is draft interior pass rusher Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina. Niners fans hate this. I don't know why they think it's stupid to trade Buckner for a younger version of the same player. Well, guess what? You can't pay everybody, and the Niners realize that, and they got excellent return for DeForest Buckner. Kinlaw is a very similar player to Buckner. The Niners love that wide 9 scheme, but they want that versatility. And newsflash, DJ Jones doesn't give you that. He is a nose tackle at the core. Solomon Thomas is not good at football. He's better as a 4-tech or a 5-tech. I don't know why the Niners fans are so against the idea of this. I get it. You lost your star player in DeForest Buckner. But Arik Armstead isn't that guy either. Armstead is a 5-tech, a 4-tech, plays over the tackle for the most part. I think it's much more important for this Niners team to replace what they had in Buckner with the very asset they got for him than to take an outside wide receiver that Shanahan's just not going to use very much in this scheme, as this offense really operates over the middle of the field and loves running the ball through outside zone. Not to mention the top 3 wide receivers are off the board at this point. So I love this pick here for the Niners. 49ers fans, it seems like I can never say anything right for them. But, I think my track record speaks pretty well. I had a pretty good grasp on what this team is all about. So let's move on. Tampa Bay at pick 14. I surprised a lot of people with this pick in my last What I Would Do mock draft, and I'm going to stand by it. Matt Peart out of UConn here to the Tampa Bay Bucks. I actually like him better than Mekhi Becton as a day 1 starter. Technique is much better. His technique, especially as a run blocker, is significantly better. But I trust him as a pass blocker as well. Much smarter player, going to pick up blitz schemes much better as well. And the last kind of nail in the coffin here is Peart played right tackle, Becton played left. If it's close, go with the guy that's comfortable on the side that you need. The Bucs already have that left tackle spot all checked down as far as the money is concerned. So get that tackle to protect Tom Brady. The last kind of big hole on this Bucs offensive roster, We know Tom Brady's going to need time to throw because he's not making a lot of guys miss and extending a lot of plays. And I think Matt Peart can do that at right tackle much better than Mekhi Becton can in year one. And Becton for sure is not the kind of prospect that I want to screw things up and make him learn how to play on a different side of the line either. There's already a lot going on as far as what he needs to do from a developmental standpoint. Then with the 15th pick, where the Jets move down, this is going to be Mekhi Becton. A Jets team that definitely wants to compete right now, but has a little bit of time to let this guy come into his own. Now, I do think he can come in and be an upgrade at left tackle from a pass protection standpoint to what they had last year. This is about the range I'm comfortable taking Becton, is the 15 to 24 range. Those top 3 wide receivers are gone as well. This was kind of the plan when I moved down, was to hopefully either get Peart or Becton. And we got it here for the Jets. Now the 16th pick, someone's really fallen here, and that's Derrick Brown. Definitely a lot of polarizing conversations going on with Brown in the draft community. Some people think he's just a true run-stuffing nose tackle. Some people think he's a top 3 player in this class. I look at him somewhere in the Akeem Hicks, Kenny Clark range of players as a dominant run defender who is going to push the pocket and be a very good pass rusher as well. Not quite Fletcher Cox level as an interior pusher of the pocket, but I do think he can rush the passer enough to warrant a first-round pick on the guy, and he is going to be that impact as a run defender day one. So I'm going to put him here in Atlanta. I have poked a lot of fun at how Atlanta basically rolls out a T-ball team on the front 7 of their defense because they just love fast, undersized guys. I think having a block eater and a beast to account for in Derrick Brown can really open up things for some of those other guys, even right next to him. For a guy like Grady Jarrett, who could have a massive breakout, being cleared up a little bit on the interior. So I think it's an excellent fit for Derrick Brown. Then we got the Cowboys at pick 17. I tweeted this out recently. It's well documented that this team is looking down the road as far as some cap troubles with all these big contracts that they're dealing out. And an even bigger issue is after this season, Chidobe Awuzie, Jordan Lewis, Xavier Woods, and now HaHa Clinton-Dix are all set to be free agents. This team, to me, almost has to spend this first overall pick on a corner. And I like Kristian Fulton quite a bit, probably more than a lot of people. Kind of giving me some Tre'Davious White vibes coming out of LSU. I know you can't always play those parallels, but he's technically sound, can run man coverage, just is falling a little bit because he doesn't do anything that truly stands out. But I think he's a guy that's going to keep developing as he goes on. He's a good athlete, maybe not an elite athlete. Similar can be said about Tre'Davious White. If he can develop some of those zone instincts, route recognition, he can be a beast and a legitimate number 1 corner in this league. And Dallas now has an affordable starter to at least plug in there for the next 4 to 5 years. Then the Miami Dolphins with pick 18, still sitting there, is Tua Tagovailoa. And this is where the, this will never happen, comments come in, and that's fine. I realize this isn't going to happen. Tua's going to go in the top 5 most likely. I'm saying that I don't think that is right. I don't believe in Tua as this elite top 5 quarterback prospect. I view him as a first-round guy who's going to be kind of boom or bust, with the bust being because of that injury concern. Now, for Miami, you got a bunch of picks still because you didn't mortgage the farm to move up for Tua. You got your tackle in Andrew Thomas. You can keep building the offensive line with some of these other picks. And now I'm starting to say, all right, we can put Tua in here. We got a better offensive line. He doesn't have to start right away. We can make sure he's healthy. We got Fitz. We got Rosen. We're putting another piece in there to try and get that high-end quarterback play, even if I don't know if that's going to be Tua. So again, I realize he's not going to fall this far. I'm just saying that this is around the range, the teens, where I'm starting to think about Tua. If I was GM, I'm just not spending that top 10 pick on him, and I'm certainly not trading up for him. Then the 19th pick, we got the Raiders back on the clock here. The best players here are kind of linebacker, edge, and Justin Jefferson. None of those big needs for the Raiders, so I'm looking for a trade down partner, especially because they don't have a second-round pick from the Khalil Mack trade, so moving up a little bit would be nice if the player is going to be similar with the 30th pick that you're going to get here from the Green Bay Packers. And then you're also going to receive the 30th pick in the second round and then give Green Bay your third round pick, the 91st pick in this draft. And then you're going to get a third round future pick from Green Bay to make this move. So a little bit of a complex trade. But the Packers come up for Justin Jefferson, who can be the number 2 option opposite of Davante Adams that this team desperately needs. Also, he can play in the slot, which basically no one on this roster can do right now because it's a bunch of trees. And Davante Adams can, but that's kind of a waste of his skill set on the outside. And one of Jefferson's best traits that he showed with Joe Burrow is knowing where to go when the play breaks down, which is something Rodgers has been screaming at his wide receivers for years. Jefferson can come in and be in sync with Rodgers and the many times every game that he looks to extend the play. So I think that could be just an underrated element of Justin Jefferson's game and just be an instant relief for Aaron Rodgers. Definitely worth giving up a couple picks to come up and make that move. Then the Jaguars at pick 20, pretty simple pick here. Yannick Ngakoue, not long for this world in Jacksonville. They need a replacement for Calais Campbell as well, and I can't think of one coming out of college that more mirrors his game than AJ Epenesa. Excellent scheme fit, really nice player, can plug in, defend the run, which is something Jags fans have been screaming for on early downs, but then kick inside and rush the passer from the inside on later downs as well. Then the Carolina Panthers, where we traded down. What a perfect pick here. I mean, you might have been thinking about this player with the 7th pick if you didn't trade down simply because of need. And that's Kenneth Murray. Excellent leader, elite athlete, can be that Mike linebacker here next to Shaq Thompson and replace Luke Kuechly. To get a future first-round pick and a 4th-round pick, to take this player at 21, slam dunk draft for the Carolina Panthers. The Cleveland Browns at 22 can certainly think about tackle here, but I think there's actually more pressing needs. I'm okay with Chris Hubbard for now. It's not ideal, but we're not going to panic here. Offensive tackle is not the only thing that the Cleveland Browns need, and I like the Jack Conklin signing a lot. I think that's going to do a lot for this team. Linebacker is a huge need for this Browns team. Schobert's gone. Kirksey's gone. Yes, you have Mack Wilson, who's a decent player, but you can't really lean on him to be your number 1 guy. He had his ups and downs as a rookie. A 5th-round pick. You got Sione Taki, who's like a first-down base run defender. You need linebackers here, probably more than replacing Chris Hubbard at left tackle. So grab Patrick Queen and extend the range of the coverage unit in the middle of the field. Great value after moving down and collecting some other picks. Then at pick 23, one of my favorite picks in this draft, and we've been going Jake Fromm here. The more I've thought about it, I actually kind of believe in Jarrett Stidham. Had a lot of hype coming into his last year at Auburn and just kind of fell off the radar a little bit. New England was kind of able to steal him in the 4th round, but a guy that at a point had 1st-round buzz. And I actually looked back at my last year's class, and this kind of hit me that I had a higher grade on Jarrett Stidham than I do on Justin Herbert, who I have a 2nd, a 3rd on Herbert, and a 2nd on Stidham. So the pick's not Herbert here. It could be Jake Fromm to come in and compete, but I don't know if that's necessary. And there's a player here that I wouldn't rather put him with any other coach than Bill Belichick, and that is Grant Delpit. There's so many reasons this makes sense. His biggest problem was tackling and technique. Is there a better coach in the world at improving that than Bill Belichick? No, there's not. I don't want to call Grant Delpit a reclamation project, but a guy that had top 10 hype entering this season and just kind of fell off the rails a little bit. But New England is great at reclamation projects like that. And even better above all this stuff, you got Patrick Chung at strong safety, who's 32 years old. I think Delpit played too much free safety in college. I think Belichick's going to see him as the Patrick Chung in this defense. But assuming Chung stays healthy, you can use Delpit as the replacement for Duron Harmon as that 3rd safety that comes in on sub packages, and you improve his tackling over a year, and eventually he replaces Patrick Chung. That's a really important role in this defense. So I love this fit. Could totally see it happening in real life. Then the Saints at pick 24. This is a tough spot. Corner to me is a bit of a reach. They do have some bodies there at corner. Those top 2 linebackers are gone in this situation. Could think about a trade down. In real life, you maybe would see someone come up for a Herbert here. That's not going to be me. Personally, I'm not really thinking about Herbert until the 2nd or 3rd round. I think that lowly of him. I don't really value drafting Mitch Trubisky in the 1st round personally. I don't know about you guys. Seems like a lot of people do. But someone that was a perfect fit here, maybe a little bit of a reach according to my board, but Laviska Shenault, I do see him as a guy that needs to be kind of schemed up, but the Saints are one of I don't know, 3 or 4 teams that I really trust to get the ball in his hands and do the best with him. I mean, the Saints were already doing a lot of weird scheming stuff up with, obviously, Taysom Hill, but other just random wide receivers. Why not do that with Laviska Shenault, who's just going to be one of the best ball carriers in the NFL? I don't love his route running. He's kind of similar to Deebo Samuel. So I just really love the fit here, and they could really use some legitimate speed and playmaking at that wide receiver position that you don't really honestly get in Michael Thomas. He does a lot of things extremely well, but he's not really that speed threat, and Emmanuel Sanders is a good player, but Laviska Shenault can offer something totally different. And all of a sudden, you've got kind of a 3 or even 4-headed monster there with Jared Cook in the mix, and all guys that can do stuff with the ball or be good receiving targets within 20 yards of the line of scrimmage, because Drew Brees at this age, not really pushing the ball vertically a ton. So great fit here. A bit of a reach by my own board, but a lot of people have him in this range anyway, and I think he'd be a great playmaker. Then the Vikings at 25, gonna grab Kayvon Chaisson. Vikings fans probably gonna comment it again in this video. Seem to believe Ofedi Odenigbo is the next big thing at edge, that he's the next Danielle Hunter. I mean, come on. Are we really that dumb, Vikings fans? He's a rotational third edge rusher. He's a good player, had inflated sack numbers last year. You can't rely on him, especially with Stephen Weatherly gone, to be the number 2 edge guy here. And that's really important for this Zimmer scheme, is getting those pressures off the edge, and Everson Griffin is gone. Kayvon Chaisson, very similar to Danielle Hunter, a freak athlete coming out of LSU, a little bit raw, and hey, you have a guy in Odenigbo who can be a little bit of a bridge starter, and this is your long-term replacement to increase that. So it's a great fit here, grabbing Kayvon Chaisson, who's pretty good value here at 25. Then the Dolphins at 26, gonna grab offensive tackle Jack Driscoll, who is my 6th offensive tackle in this class, ahead of guys like Josh Jones and Austin Jackson. I love him. I literally thought I was watching Brian Bulaga as a pass blocker at Auburn. Really good athlete, smooth feet. Check this guy out. You're gonna watch this and think it's a reach, but after you watch him, you're gonna say, you know what, I could see him. I could see him plugging right in at right tackle where he played in college. He grabbed on Andrew Thomas at left tackle earlier. He can come in and start and be an immediate upgrade at right tackle here. I actually like him a little more than Josh Jones. I think he, has better technique that will translate. Josh Jones, to me, who, by the way, is going to be the pick here at 27 to the Seattle Seahawks, so it's not like these are crazy differences here, but I do think Josh Jones is a little bit heavier feet, but he's by no means a bad prospect. And I actually think Josh Jones is one of the higher floor, lower ceiling guys in this class. His consistency at Houston was just insane. Seattle, I don't know why they don't invest in offensive line. It makes no sense to me. Luckily for Seahawks fans, this is a what I would do mock draft. Kind of a no-brainer to grab a really high floor offensive tackle that can start at right tackle. I mean, are we really going to kid ourselves and put Cedric Ogbuehi as the starting right tackle who's there right now? I mean, come on, Seattle. How long are you going to do this to Russell Wilson? Then the Ravens at 28, the 3rd consecutive offensive lineman picked here. Cesar Ruiz. You get that Michigan to Michigan connection from Harbaugh to Harbaugh. Not that that's super important, but with Marshall Yonder retiring, you kind of got a weakness there on the interior, and the Ravens run the ball more than anyone in the last decade. They have some young guys that played okay last year, but I think they need a real influx of talent. Whether he plays center or guard, he can do either. He's a freak. He can pull like Yanda did. He can really just let you keep doing what you did last year as an elite running team. I think they're playing a little bit with fire with the guys they have on the interior right now, and this would really kind of calm that a little bit. Then pick 29, Tennessee. It's a tough spot for me. I just didn't love any picks here. They have kind of a deep roster. I went with Yetur Gross-Matos. I do think looking down the future of this team, they need pass rushing help. I do like Harold Landry. It's hard to say, has he reached his ceiling? What kind of player really is he? He's a great speed rusher off the edge. Definitely a high-end number 2, if not a low-end number 1. But I mean, come on. Is Vic Beasley going to come in here and resurrect his career here? No, he's not. They need a number 2 edge guy. Cam Wake's gone. Gross-Matos doesn't necessarily have to be a full-on starter right away, but Back end of the first round here, it's really hard to find real impacts, but sometimes you got to draft for the future a little bit. I think that's what you're doing here with Yetur, Gross, Matos. And this is a really bad edge class. If that is a need, you might have to address that right here, right now. Then the Raiders, where we move down, T. Higgins here at number 30. I just brought him up on Twitter. The hate has gone on a little bit too far here. I get being a little suspect with his 40 time. He's not some elite separator. When you look at guys like Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy in this class, it's a little harder to get intrigued by a guy like T. Higgins, but those guys are special. My point is, it's not like Mike Williams and Mike Evans are useless players in the NFL. Derek Carr had a lot of success with a similar player in Michael Crabtree years ago. The Raiders need this big-bodied outside wide receiver in this offense, and Derek Carr, I think, has been looking for that since Michael Crabtree left. It sounds weird to say, but they had a really great chemistry. I think him and Higgins can have the same. So honestly, the guy I would have taken at 19 is there at 30. Maybe it could be Denzel Mims if Higgins goes, but I do like Higgins more than Mims. Just a better route runner, and I trust his hands more. But great move for the Raiders. Then we got the Niners at 31. Jalen Johnson, your long-term Richard Sherman replacement. He played the same scheme at Utah. The dude is a baller and a playmaker. You have depth at corner, but none of these guys on the roster right now I'm looking at as 2-3 years down the road being there as legitimate guys. And like I said about the Titans, you can't always draft to fill in an instant need at the end of the first round. Sometimes you got to take guys that are going to be sustainable for the future, and that's Jalen Johnson here for the San Francisco 49ers. Then Kansas City, Jeff Gladney. I think he's an excellent fit here in Kansas City, who transitioned to more of an off-coverage, zone-heavy scheme, something he does really well. Not a guy that's going to press a ton, but he can run man coverage as well. And right now, out of Shavarius Ward, you're looking at Rashad Fenton, Alex Brown, Antonio Hamilton. It's an awful corner room. I think they got to walk away with a corner here the more I look at this. And Jeff Gladney is definitely a day one starter, an excellent scheme fit here based on what this team likes to run. So that's the first round. Again, guys, 1,000 likes. I'll get to work on the second round. Drop your comments down below. Do keep in mind this was a what I would do mock draft. I understand that a lot of this is not how it's going to play out in real life. This is how I would do it if I were the GM of these teams. Something that'll be fun to look back on in a year or two. So peace out, everyone. We'll see you for the next one.